link to her website? I'm sorry.
Her book.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it's on Amazon and IndieBound. I like to mention both because I know some people have a anti-Amazon stance. And then, yeah, if we can also highlight that it's on Kindle sale for another like 2 days.
All right. And we're live. So they actually caught the last part of that. So hi guys. How you doing?
Okay, hello.
Happy Memorial Day. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the chat. And hey Drew. Hey, is it Chineri? Did I say that right? I'm sorry. We see you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for showing up. Y'all are amazing.
Hi,
And yeah, let's do this. Let's get started with this. So, hello and welcome to everyone who is watching on the Written in Melanin channel. We are so glad to have you here. My name is Chelsea, better known as C.M. Lockhart, and I am here with the lovely LaCase Marie Cousineau and the wonderful, amazing Yodassa Williams. And today we will be interviewing her and talking to her about her debut novel, The Goddess Twins. And we are so glad that you guys are here. See, she's got the book. She's ready, guys. She's ready. So, her book debuted last week on the 19th, and we've read it. It's amazing. If you haven't read it, you absolutely should. But this is going to be a mostly spoiler-free conversation, so if you haven't, you can stay and chat with us, and it'll be great. Yeah? All right. So, I'm excited, and I'm hyped up on, like, caffeine. So, excuse me if I talk too fast. And yeah, let's get into this. So first of all, welcome to the channel. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your book with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you guys for having me on the show, for reading the book, for taking time during all of this going on to really celebrate joy is what I feel like I hope this book brings to people. And I hope this virtual book tour that I'm doing, I just really intend to bring joy. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So let's just start at the very beginning. Okay. So for those of us, well, not us, because I've read it, I know what it's about, but for those watching who haven't had the chance to read your book yet, can you tell us a little bit about it, like in your own words?
I would absolutely love to. So the book is called The Goddess Twins. It's a young adult fantasy. So it's a Afro-feminist fantasy, if you kind of want to know the genre and theme. And reading age is 7th grade and up, but I definitely recommend if you connect with young adult themes at any age, you can connect with this book. So it is about identical twin sisters who, just before their 18th birthday, their mother disappears from a tour that she was doing in London, and they start to exhibit supernatural powers, each of the twins. So they decide in this crazy haste of what's happening to their lives that they're going to have to go and track down their mother in London. And so the book itself really begins with each of these sisters in a very different place emotionally, and also in a very different place of how they see their mother, and then completely entering into a new world where they discover that they're descendants of this line of Caribbean deity goddesses, that their powers are coming out now because their mother kind of like had tried to keep them from their entire family history and story. So they really have to dive into themselves, to their powers, to this family mystery, to understanding their mother in a way that really makes them grow and evolve. This is very much a coming of age story, and I love those kind of stories growing up. And it's very exciting. I think how I split it up, each chapter is told in a different twin's voice. So you understand each of them and how they are emotionally on this journey to discovering themselves, to discovering this powerful, like amazing world that they're now drawn into.
Oh,
Wonderful.
I think that's perfect. That's a perfect description. Like I don't even know.
Perfect. Yeah. That's perfect. I was, while reading the book, I was so struck by the richness of the like Jamaican culture, the Caribbean culture. So I was just wondering, is that your background, or like did
It
you have to do a lot of
is.
research? Okay, I was wondering. I'm like, she just knows this so well.
Yes. So I am Jamaican American. I'm a first generation. My parents came here from Jamaica, and then I
Oh,
was
nice.
born here. So I
Awesome.
am very connected to my Jamaican ancestry. And growing up, I really got my nurturing of storytelling from Jamaican stories, from the Anansi Spider story that
Yes.
makes a
Yes.
feature in the book. I remember having dreams of Anansi as a child because my mom would tell me, different stories. So I very much grew up in the Jamaican storytelling history and culture. And I very much wanted to see that represented in a book and in a way that myself as a young woman really connected to a culture to find herself. And that's something
Absolutely.
that I felt personally in my life as I was developing as a young adult into an adult. Like, wow, I'm continuing to pull back into my culture and pull back into, thinking of my ancestors and what they did. And so for me, when it came the opportunity to write my own book, I could not help but, imbibe it with the richness of the Caribbean culture, with the patois language. When I thought of, a world that I wanted to build, that I wanted to
Yeah.
bring readers into, it very much was filled with characters like, the grand character who is like this super OG Jamaican
Yeah.
patois
Yeah.
speaking goddess, like,
Locks
get
to her
this, I
feet.
got
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
handling it. Like, I just, because I grew up in those stories and in those
Yeah.
people and in
Yeah.
those characters a part of my life, and really seeing them like kind of on this other level, like, wow, there's something so powerful when I go to my
Definitely.
family's, like reunions and stuff. So I was really excited to have the opportunity to kind of push not only like the supernatural elements, but also the character elements and weave them with the Caribbean culture and that identity that I myself as a writer felt has been really influential to who I have become.
Oh yeah, because like seeing that representation and having your culture represented is so important. And I'm glad that not only do you
Yeah.
see that, but like you were also like, okay, I'm gonna write it and I'm gonna make it a reality so that other people who want to see it and experience it and live in it and also be magical in it. I love it when all those aspects come together. So like
Yeah.
definitely kudos to you, ma'am, and thank you for writing a book because I say this genuinely. I love books about magical black girls. I live for it.
Yes.
It is my jam. Like, this is what I search for. So, thank you for
Yeah.
writing it and for sharing it with
Thank
us.
you.
But, going to take a quick moment here to shout out the chat because
Yeah, we've got a lot of people in here today.
yeah, hey,
Miss
hey,
Williams, you brought your whole crew.
brought your crew. We appreciate
Oh,
it.
the goddess crew. Hi.
You got your goddess
I
crew.
want to do a
Yes.
highlight to my shirt today. I'm wearing a shirt that says I met God. She's black.
Hey,
Yes.
I love it.
You
I'm
know
wearing
she's
my
gotta
goddess
be.
crown that I had a friend made for me
Oh,
that has like
fabulous.
loving and healing crystals. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
here to bring loving
wonderful.
light. So
Yes.
let's get
Yes.
into the chat.
You definitely brought it. Yeah, well, your mom's in the chat, which is fabulous. We've got a lot of people saying, you got your cousin here too.
Yeah.
And
Hi,
Evie,
cousin.
one of our faves.
Hi,
Evie is in
Evie.
here.
How you doing?
One of our regulars. Hi, Evie. And Evie is saying that the
Hi,
book sounds
Evie.
really interesting and congrats on publishing. So, yeah, we're on and
Thank
popping in the chat
you.
room. If you guys have any questions, we know that you've got family in there, but if any of you have questions, just put them in the chat. We'll ask as quickly as we can. I'm watching. I'm not ignoring her. I'm looking at my.
She's on the chat, you guys.
She's on
Yeah.
the chat.
I'm in the
She's
chat, so
LinkedIn.
any questions you have, drop them in there, and we'll shoot them off. That way we can keep the conversation going. We love to have people be involved, so don't hesitate. Or if you want to give a shout out, whatever you want to say, we're here.
Yay.
And if you guys, want to, please feel free to share this interview on social media so that everybody
Yes.
can share in the love of Yodassa.
Share the love, the
Yodassa
light.
and her book. I keep messing up your name. Please forgive me. It's
Yodassa,
not intentional.
Yoda. You can also call me Yoda. That's my nickname.
Yoda.
Ooh, there you
I'm
go.
calling you Yoda. That is your name from now on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But back to the point why we are all gathered here today. Couple of questions for you, like specifically about the book. Since you're talking about the culture, the Jamaican culture that you wanted to input into your book, and that's your culture, that's your background. I also want to know, like, the characters, are they based off of specific people that you know, or like what was the inspiration for the characters, specifically Aurora and Arden? Because I think I mentioned this in the book review that I did for you. Slight plug, if you guys are on the channel, I did a book review for the book, so check it out.
Oh wait, is it this way? There we go.
But no, seriously, like, especially with Aurora and Arden, because they're twins, but they have a sibling relationship that anybody can understand. And so often when you get books about twins, they have this like relationship that's like, oh man, I don't have a twin, so I don't really understand that connection.
Yeah.
No, I can read your mind. But I thought it was cool that one twin can actually read minds, but she can't read her sister's.
Yeah,
so
that was like a twist.
How did that
sorry,
come about? I'm rambling because I have so much I want to ask, but like, you talk. Explain.
Thank you. I so appreciate the feedback that the characters, were juicy and sticky, and I loved building, the surrounding characters. As I mentioned, Gran is one of my favorites. I have to shout out also the cousins that they meet are based off of my real cousins. So
cool.
they meet cousins
okay.
Leo and Liberty, and I had in my late teens gone to London and met my own cousins Cleo and Chanel, and hung out with them in London, and that summer completely changed my life.
Wow.
And it's kind of like this book is a fantasy dialed up to 10 reaction to that summer that I had as what was previously like a very like quiet, shy, introverted bookworm me. Went to London, was with these dope cousins. Got my nose pierced, was hanging out, like going out late, dancing, like texting guys, like all of this stuff happened in that experience. And so a lot of this is based off of real characters, real life experience, real feelings that I have had, because I definitely, go back to, I feel like that tenement of write what you know feels so true, especially for me in my first novel. And I had not, gone to school for an MFA or for a writing degree. But I felt deeply that I had this story, and I felt deeply that I could channel these characters into life. And so I really, drew on the real people and the real experiences, and, like just times where I'd like run across people and then it was just like, wow, like something in them. I want to dive into that. And as you mentioned, Aurora and Arden, it's really interesting because both of them mashed together is basically my personality. So basically what I did, I just like kind of like pulled myself apart and was like the very introverted, the very like quiet, the very like peacemaking parts of me, I just wove that into the singular character of Arden. And then the very like aggressive, trying to move things, like radical energy in me, I wove that into the character of Aurora. And I also want to shout out this kind of like spontaneous writing device that helped me kind of pull into each of those characters separately and each of their voices. Because as I was writing, I was like, no, how would she react to this? And I really want how Arden would react as opposed to how Aurora would react to this thing. Because later I want to hear how Aurora reacts to it, and I want it to feel different from her sisters. And trying to respect them as separate characters going through the same journey felt really important to me. So one thing I did is that I created a playlist of songs for each character, and I created them in a way that like kind of inspired me to pull into their voice more. And I even like drilled down to like specifics as like, this is how Aurora feels about her mother. This is represented in these songs. So when I felt like I was like writing in her vibe and in her voice and writing about a scene about how she's reacting to the mystery of finally finding out their mother has kept this entire destiny from them, like trying to like really connect to that voice and that spirit, felt like that was a way that helped me develop the writing in a way that honored the characters and honored their voices uniquely, even though it could have, I feel like, felt like they were just the same thing, the same movement, but I really wanted it to be two separate personalities developing into strong women. And that was important for me because I felt like I didn't just want to have one journey, I wanted to have two fully complete evolutions represented. So making sure the characters starts to finish were honored was really important for me. So thank you for connecting to that.
Definitely. I think it was something I was mentioning to Chelsea. You know, we always read the books and we talk about them together and like things we see what we both notice. And something that really struck me was how, like you mentioned, you want these characters to feel like they're on their own journey, but I never doubted that they were raised in the same house, if that makes sense. Like they were both very intelligent, you know, they're both very worldly. But you see the split with how they deal with their mom. You know, to me, it was very much a story of the mom has gone through some things, so she's pulled back. So there's like an element of neglect. You know, the girls are traveling the world. They're not really being able to get rooted down. So it was interesting. Their reactions were a split. You know, Arden and Aurora, like one is like all in, trying to be the mommy's girl, trying to be the best she can be. The other one's like full of rage and, you know, trying to act out to get that attention. But it made sense, you know, no two kids, even if they are twins, are going to react the same. I thought that was so great. Like, it just felt real that these were sisters who are, you know, while they look alike, they share all this DNA, they're going to react differently. But it made sense, the story.
And,
sorry, Chelsea.
Oh, no, I just wanted to piggyback off of that and be like, one of the scenes that you wrote in, I like how even though they had the same experience with when they went to the beach and they went swimming, like you can see why and how they react to that, and you can understand why Arden might have a more like volatile reaction because, you know, she's like, I just went through this really traumatic event and you're over here chilling with your new boo. Like, hold up, pause. And Aurora, I could see why she would be more understanding because she's like, well, I didn't know. I was with you and I didn't even know. So, like, cut her some slack.
How's mom?
You know, that's just who she is. So, I think the fact that they had similar experiences and they reacted to it, even at a young age, that played really well into them being older, like almost adults, you know, 17, 18. And they're still having the same experiences, but very, very different reactions to it. So I thought that was really well incorporated, especially, you know, having a sibling of my own and knowing that we were raised in the same house and we have like our fundamental like foundation. It's the same, but who we are as people and how we react to things and how we live our lives are very different, even though our parents our parents, like we were together, you know. So
we actually have some really good questions for you, if that's okay.
I just want to quickly
in
add
the chat.
I just want to quickly add about the sisters. I myself am a sister. I have two lovely sisters. I grew up in the baby of the family. So I have also experienced that. Like, we had the same experience, but you want me to suddenly get over it? How are you not seeing what, you know? I definitely wanted to reflect how there can definitely be opposite reactions to the same stimulus within a household.
Absolutely. Based on a multitude of things. Wow, we got a lot of questions rolling in. Okay, let's see here. Benjamin is asking, why did you decide to make your main characters twins?
So I have always had a fascination with twins. I watched the original Haley Mills Parent Trap.
Oh yes,
that one's so good.
I love that one.
One of my top 10. Like, I don't know how to describe that film in my life because it became fantasy to me because at that same time my parents separated and divorced, And I started to have feverish dreams that like, if I had a twin, I could fix my entire life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then like just continuously through my life, like scenes would happen. I'd be like, if my twin was here, they would figure this out with me and we would be together. And just
Right.
kind of like, I remembered The Parent Trap, like deeply rooting the seed of like twins to solve one problem. Like, this is really delicious. Talk to me more about it.
Right.
And then like growing up in high school, you know, I was friends with twins in my high school, and you know, would ask them like all those like stupid questions, like if I pinch her, will you feel it? You know, like all those like stupid stuff where you're just like, how does this like
how
how
does this
can you
work?
be connected?
Yeah.
How does
Like,
this work?
what are the
Like
mechanisms?
I also remember one year we had twins in our class and they asked to be in like separate English classes, and that was
Oh,
scandalous.
yeah.
Like everybody was like, how do you with your sister? Like, what's going on? And I was also like, I need to know the backstory of this. They don't want to be together. How is that? Because if I was a twin, we would be working on everything. So yes, I have always had this constant imagination of this twin sister magic in my life, and when I thought about writing a book, it was very daunting to me. That was very overwhelming, like a novel. Woo!
Yeah.
Oh no, man, that's a lot. And I realized after a while, it was kind of the challenge of writing in singular voice for an entire book.
Oh, yeah.
Felt like it was a lot for me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I had grown up with short story writing and feeling really comfortable, like delving into a character, one
Yeah.
big problem, they solve it, move on to a completely new character and completely new, like, so when I thought like, oh, I feel like a novel is happening inside me, that's really big and terrifying. One of the things that helped me kind of fill it in was like, what if I kind of wrote it in a way that was like short stories, and what if it wasn't just relying on one character? And
Yeah.
I absolutely love twins. What if it was like two sisters, one story, and then I'm kind of like dividing up the effort of this narrative voice and being able to split between characters for myself. And around that same time, I had read Little Bee by Christopher Cleave. And I also attribute that book to kind of inspiring this style of writing in separate voices for the same narrative, because that book did that and I thought it did it really beautifully. And not to spoil it, but it actually starts with two characters who are so separate, and then their stories become aligned to like the last chapter. You're like, oh, they have been traumatized by the same thing, but they have started off in very different places and we had to figure it out. So something about that really kind of inspired me, like, oh, a novel but in different voices.
Yeah.
That feels more playful and more, for me, something that I could jump into with a little more energy than like, okay, this one character, I'm back to her today, I'm back to figuring out her and every minutia. So being able to kind of play with the writing style is really what got me through this project. And I very much set up the outline knowing that I was writing a novel, but forcing it to kind of fit into traditional like short story themes. And so I made each chapter each girl's short story about that period of her life. And then I moved to the next chapter to the next twins, basically short story of the next period of their life. And so for me, I completely created that writing style because it was just like what felt comfortable and natural for me in the writing I had already done. And to jump into a novel, to jump into an MFA program, felt like it was something that was going to change how I looked at writing or how I looked at style. And I just kind of wanted to work with what I felt good with, which was like, you know what? I really dive into, you know, like doing multiple characters. I even at one point thought like, maybe I'll do, you know, just a chapter in the cousins. And then I was like, no, we'll just, you know, do the switch between the twins. But I very much enjoyed being able to build these other characters and not only just have like a complete novel of just one character and one voice. but being able to really build on this world and kind of also rely on these very two different characters and their perspectives into this world.
Definitely. It's good to know that, I mean, I think it's good for people to hear that you can, like you said, invent a way to write, you know, whatever feels good for you as an artist, as a creator is, it's okay. There's no wrong way to do it. And also, I heard you say the word outline. I am like by myself in this world of outlining, so thank you. I'm surrounded by pantsers.
I love
For anybody, me too. For anybody who doesn't know, pantsing is where you just write free. Outliners like Miss Yoda and I map out
to like
everything.
Meditate and kind of like feel out the story.
Yeah.
And I do also like, there is things that, you know, just surprise me as I'm writing, and, you know, things happen and then I'm like, oh, that's not where I was going today, but this is some juicy stuff and this is now where the story's developing. But from start to finish, I did have an outline for this book, and it definitely helped me in the muddy, you know, like struggling parts. Like today I wake up and I don't want to write, and I also feel really just empty, and then I would just go back to that outline and be like, what feels the juiciest today? What do I think I can get out? What is a scene that I think I could use that I can feel productive about today? And for me, because I'm a very like type A, like goal-oriented productivity person, when I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I want to write a novel. I knew I needed to plan it out and see it out and to see what I was filling in with my time and energy. Because at that point I had also started kind of like going to writing workshops and talking to other people who are writing, and just kind of starting like being like, what is it to be a writer? What is this writing industry? And I had gotten so much varying information about how long it takes to write a novel. Like people were like, I've been writing my novel for 12 years and I'm never done. And I'm like, meh. And then there were people like, I just wrote my novel in 9 months. And I'm like, meh. Like, so I was like very confused, like how long does it take to write a novel? So I was like, okay, you know, I don't want to get lost in years and years and years of writing a story and I don't know where it's going and I can't figure it out. And now my characters are in quicksand. And so I'm like, I got to write an outline that I'm filling out, because this novel's not going to take me 12 years. Like I'm going to finish it. So I very much suggest, if this is like your first foray into writing something, to give yourself tools so that you can complete the project. Because you can be writing a novel for the rest of your life. And I have met people who have been writing a novel for their whole lives.
Absolutely.
But I didn't want
that point. I was like,
it reminds me of those kids, like when you're in college and they're a senior when you're a freshman, and then you keep seeing them and they're always there, and then you're a senior and they're still a senior, and you're like, but you started this way before I did. Like, aren't we supposed to be achieving a goal here? Like, I'm not sure how this works.
Yeah, I had a vision, and the vision was a completed novel. It wasn't just writing a novel, it was
completing. And I feel
novel.
Like a lot of people, especially when you're intimidated by the aspect of writing one, you forget that that's a big part of it. It's like, you can't just write it, you have to complete it. You know, that's the goal. But
and it takes work.
It does.
But it's
worth
worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. But like, let's acknowledge this chat, because first of all, everybody in the chat, y'all are amazing, and y'all are really participating, and we love it. We love it.
We have it's like so hard to keep up. They're going so fast. But I have 2 questions. They're both playlist related, so I'll just ask them together. They're from Benjamin and Evie. Ben's asking, are your playlists available? And Evie wants to know, what would be a song from those playlists that describes Twin?
Just one. Otherwise, we're never going to get to the other questions.
Yeah, we'll be here all day. Yeah, I know, because we're writers. We can talk about our stuff
all day.
I the cows come home.
And I'm so excited again because I didn't go through a traditional path. I did not do an MFA. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. And that I was not a real writer because I didn't do the real writing path, that I was just like making up writing, and there was something shameful about it. So I'm
No.
very
Nah.
excited to share these little tools that gave me like baby confidence. Like I can
Yeah.
write in a voice, like, you know what? How you dive into a character. One of those ways is sound. I can listen to something that sounds like the character would listen to and then get inspired by that. So that is definitely something I'm excited to share. So thank you. I have not shared the exact playlist out, but I
Okay.
still have them. So maybe that'll be like a future like support. I do have a Patreon, so maybe in the future I'll like share it with my Patreons.
We have one too,
Oh,
you
there you
guys.
go.
It's in the description box.
Everybody's got a Patreon. Join them all.
Patreon where I'm like, I've been doing like really deep insights to what this path of becoming an author has been.
Yeah.
But I also have plans of doing an audiobook, and maybe that
Oh, good.
might be something that's a part of the audiobook. I don't know.
So
But
stay tuned.
I stay tuned for sharing of the soundtrack of each twin's lives. But I do want to share also that I delved into the characters and what they were contrasting as twins, but also what they overlapped as twins. And one of the things that I've kind of been using as a fun tagline for this book is that it's the perfect fantasy for the age of Beyonce, because when I was doing each of their playlists, Beyonce showed up, but different Beyonce songs.
Oh, I can see
Like
that.
I was like,
Yeah.
like Arden would be more like Care for You, and like in that
Oh.
kind of like Beyonce vibe.
Yeah.
And then like Aurora is definitely like
Around the world.
Single Ladies.
Or Single Ladies, yeah.
Around the world. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Diva, I'm a Diva. That's
Oh, yeah.
definitely on Aurora's
Yes.
playlist. So yeah,
that's-
even recognizing like, oh, I feel like they both agree that Beyonce is the queen, but they would have a discussion about
different eras.
Yes.
eras of Beyonce or which vibes of Beyonce. So that's one little insight I can share with the audience. Like they both are
fabulous. Well, Beyonce will heal us all. I have one more question from the chat that I'm seeing, and I'll do my best to get to you guys all. This is from Drew. Drew would like to know what your favorite superhero movie might be, or what fantasy or sci-fi film influenced your writing. So yeah, if there was any like character or book or movie that influenced the Goddess Twin the most.
Thank you.
And
I want to give
and
a
lots
shout
of
out
support.
Yeah, lots
Oh,
of
yeah, lots of support.
congratulations and love for you.
Drew's wonderful. Thank you so much for all the love and support.
Yeah.
Yes, I love superhero things growing up, like superpowers, like evolving into the super person, or even if they already had a like super destiny. I remember being really fascinated the original X-Men with Storm and her backstory, and why they never got into it more was really upsetting to me. Like I was
like we didn't need to know.
I was like,
she's the most interesting X-Men.
She's the most interesting.
She's so interesting. African American mother, I think. Her dad's Kenyan, orphaned. You know, raised like
with the power to change weather and I was
like, fly.
They were always
considered a goddess.
Always sleeping on her, and I felt like she needed more. And I had lots of like fantasies about that. I've heard supposedly they're in works of doing a more like Storm-based
they need to
thing, but they need to because I was always fascinated with her as a superhero and her background and her destiny and her evolution into her strength and power as an amazing Black goddess. Like that was just absolutely fascinating to me. And in this world of all of these, you know, very vanilla superheroes, here was Storm, and I felt like they were just never really giving her due. So that's something that I kind of always had in my back pocket. Like, why don't the POC characters, even when they're like clearly worth being like pushed into the spotlight, given that opportunity and voice? And that was something that I remember growing up. Like, is this episode based? Is this episode Storm based? We're still not Storm episode. Like, so X-Men and Storm somehow like let that desire and hunger in me grow from a child.
Yes.
And I don't know if anyone has seen this film. I think it's on Hulu, Fast Color. It just
I just
recently
watched
came out.
it.
I don't
Yes.
have
Please,
Hulu.
Chelsea, you
I'm
have to
needing to
watch
get the
it.
word out about it because I
It's so
love this
well.
story. This
Viola Davis just
three
picked it up to do a
generations.
series. Yes.
I'm just
Viola
saying.
Davis's production company is doing a series. I tell you,
I'm just saying.
I say it all the time on this show. Black women change the world. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
But yes, I've always wanted to know more about like Black women and magical powers. Like
Yeah.
those two feel so aligned because at least to me, all the Black women I know are superhuman because of what we have come against, what we have fought against, what we continue to face just to be as brilliant as we are when we show up in the world. And I loved Fast Color because it showed how these three generations of Black women deal differently with this gift of supernatural powers and how they have like hidden it or expressed it or protected themselves and each other in a way that was just so like right and needed, because I feel like that is a story that is not told enough, but it is happening in so many families and in so many cultures where women are not getting the opportunity to fully express how they can be and how they can show up and change and heal the world. So to see it in this amazing, beautiful Black family, and I was just like, so that was a movie. It came out like not when I was writing the book, but kind of in this process, and I was really excited that like my book is adding to this narrative that is growing about Black girl magic and about Black women and fantasy writing and Afrofuturism and seeing ourselves as people of color strong in situations where we are never usually thought of to be shown in these situations or to be shown in this light. So I'm really excited for that movie. Other superhero movies that I've loved, definitely like the Marvel movies. I want to definitely shout out Wonder Woman. I thought they did a really great job with the newest Wonder Woman. And from what I thought about like the Wonder Woman character, what they did with the direction, I feel like it was very empowering for her as a character. Like it could have gone in different ways, or she was just like, but it was very like, I was like, I'm glad for this movie to exist. So seeing more women in supernatural powers and supernatural situations, this is very exciting.
It is. Entirely. Great questions, you guys. Keep them all coming. And again, lots of congratulations, lots of support in the chat for your book. And I just think it goes to show people want these stories.
Absolutely.
People want to read. It's like there's just such a market for stories about young Black women or young Black boys, young people of color going through magic and the heroes and all. So that's why I'm so excited for it.
And yeah, I'm so excited because not only is this book like coming of age and about these characters' evolution, but it also very much represents the hero's journey from two very separate personality types, finding themselves to become the hero of their own journey. And that felt like something for me that I wanted to reflect for young women, because I grew up reading the Babysitter's Club series, which I was completely obsessed with. And it was empowering for me to have this multitude of young women expressing being good in the world, and not just, through being creative, and not just through, caring for their family, and not just through speaking up and having a voice, but, like seeing the array of that. And then for myself being able to be like, okay, this is where I align with this character. This is where I align with this character. But in total, I can see the evolution. So something about seeing multiple characters go through the strength and evolution of humanity felt really nurturing for me as a child. And so I thought when I got the opportunity and felt the inspiration to write a book I wanted it to be something that was a gift and something that was inspiring and something that felt like it was nurturing to the soul. And so again, going back to like, oh, if I do it in twin sisters, I can bring two different stories and I can bring two narratives and I can show the hero's journey through different perspectives. And sometimes I know, as Black women, we get pigeonholed into certain personality types, like, oh, you're just the angry one, or oh, you're just the good one. So I just wanted to be like, well, what if, you start off one way, you start off another way, but you are still worthy of the evolution of being strong and empowered. So that was exciting for me.
Yeah. And I was telling LaCase earlier today, like literally earlier today before we got on this, how like so often we read books and we internalize them as kids. And it's so important to have that and to see that. And like for us, I say us like collectively, as people of color, so often we have to go to books with people who don't look like us, who don't necessarily represent us fully, and we have to pick and choose which parts we connect with and which parts we internalize, and how I'm so glad that we're in an age and a culture where we're getting more books like yours, where we have characters who are like, we have Black girls who are soft but also strong, and like you said, going through this hero's journey and wanting to be good and being bold, but also being able to be like, okay, we might be in a little over our heads, but we've got this because we've got each other, and being able to be more than just one thing. And I'm really glad that you are writing this because, there are, I don't want to say children because that seems like demeaning, but there are like children, young people out there who are going to find your book, who are going to read your book, and who are going to see themselves, and they're going to be able to internalize that. And so when they grow up, they're going to be like, I have this book, or I had this book as a kid, and it showed me that I could be more, I could be good, I could have different aspects of myself, I could do these things. And I love that. I live for that. That's why I'm so passionate about everything that I do, and why I'm so passionate about your book. And like, again, I've said it before, but like seriously, like thank you, because like I said, when I was younger, like this is the book that I would have wanted to read, like let's go on a magical journey. Like let's go hop on a plane. Let's go to London. Let's go do all of this. But one of the things that I did want to ask you, and I wanted to ask you to elaborate on, is like your book is so full of magic because like they're literal goddesses. And I loved, like LaCase and I both kind of gushed about this, but like there are rules to your magic system. Like each one of them has something specific and unique to them. And LaCase and I were both like, oh, this is dope. This is cool. I personally love the origin story of how it all got started. Like that's...
Yes.
I loved it.
I've never seen that before.
I was not ready for this. Like, what? Okay. Cool. Cool. But
that one was definitely the universe. Like I was like, how do I create goddesses? How did they come to be? And then the universe was like, you know what? And so I'm grateful you guys enjoyed the mythology. Thank you.
We did.
So I guess the actual question, now that I'm not actually like gushing over you, like the actual question is like, how did you come up with this magic system? Because a lot of the people who watch the stream, they are writers themselves. And I know that when you're writing a fantasy, coming up with the system and the world building can be one of the most difficult parts of, writing it. So like, how did you come up with it? And then like, what made you decide that, okay, these sisters and this family can control like animals, and then this family and this side can control like time, and this family can control like water? It's like, it makes sense because it is like hereditary to some extent, but also like, I'm gonna let you talk about it because it's your book. But I thought it was nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I so enjoyed building the fantasy world and building like, this universe of goddesses, and what are their powers and how do they interact, or, what is the connection through the line of these gifts and of these talents. And I kind of, drew back on my genuine love of mythology, Greek mythology growing up, and thinking of like, the Greek gods and goddesses, and kind of like they each had their own realm. Mm-hmm. And then kind of this thing where when they would have children, their children's power would be kind of like related, like Aphrodite and then Eros, and they're both related to love and emotion. It's like this kind of like passing down of talents. And I think we definitely see that in our world where, you know, like, oh, my dad had musical talent and now I can pick up the piano really fast. Oh, it's something that happened connected through us. And
Yeah.
so when I thought about, you know, building this world of powers, I wanted to feel like it made sense. And so I kind of like wove it into the sense of like passing down talents from one generation to another, and being bestowed with kind of a special realm of like goddess abilities, and then being able to kind of like evolve them when you are around your other family members to have other abilities. Like that felt like that made sense to me, because I myself, like, you know, I have my own like writing and storytelling skills, and when I am around like my cousins, or especially when I was in London and was around Cleo and Chanel, and they would be like, oh, we can do this, and I'm like, oh, well, then I can do this part. And like all of a sudden we're like making a project and we have a video going on and I did the
That's
writing,
fabulous.
you know. So that made sense to me, thinking, oh, there should be some interconnect with the powers and the families. And that feels like it's relevant to how it is when you have a creative talent or when you have a natural leaning towards something, and then you're around someone else who has a talent and a natural leaning, and then you just start to create more
Kind of
things,
vibe. Yeah.
Build off
kind
of
of
each other.
vibe, and just be like, oh, is that what you're putting down? Can I put a on? So yeah, that felt exciting for me to think like not just each character having the same powers, but them each having unique powers and then being able to build together. And I was like, what a magical world that feels like. And that was exciting for me to think that the twins were starting off this place where they thought they were each like, they just thought it was like accidental and like, what is happening to me? Am I reading minds, or I'm just going crazy tonight? But then to move into this realization that like, no, this is like a gift you have been bestowed, and this is a part of who you are, and now you are a part of this world where you can do even greater things with who you are. So that was exciting to me, to kind of mirror the real world abilities of, if you find out what you're good at and you are able to, you know, to be authentic and display that in the world and display your gifts and your talents, you will be able to find the family that you can connect with and make even greater things. And I think that's something that is just a little kernel of a lesson that I hope young readers can get from this book, because I feel like that's something that I've really grown into, being here in Oakland. I originally grew up in Ohio, where there's, when I was growing up, not much creative scene. And so being here in Oakland is a part of what really inspired my personal like creative renaissance, and being able to see people who had skills and talent, and then being like, I think I want to do something too, and then being around other people and being like, I think what you're missing is me. And you know, like,
yes,
being able to
it's
be
so
like, I think
true.
something to give
Absolutely.
to the world is very powerful. It's a very powerful evolution. And so I wanted those characters as young adults to realize that like the things that are coming out in you, they're not just accidents, they're gifts, and you can use them in a powerful way to save and help people.
Absolutely. And
Beautiful.
I love that you mentioned the fact of you find your family. You
Yeah.
know, like they did it in the literal sense, but also like tying that into the real world, like you said, like you find the people who make you better. I love that, because just like being a writer myself, it's just like when I first started this, it was like just me, and then I linked up with the case, and then now we have like a whole writing group. Shout out to Cachet, because she's in the chat, and it's just like being around people who are similar to you in like what you like to do and what you feel your talents are, and having them work toward their goals, it's like that helps to bring you closer to what you're trying to do. It brings out the best in you, and then like you want to show up for them because they show up for you, and it's like a reciprocal thing, and it's like you build and grow together, and it's amazing. And it's just like you really do have to, as they say, find your tribe, because it'll change your life when you do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
ways that you can't even predict, because
Yeah.
sometimes, especially if you're introverted, like I'm a self-proclaimed introvert, I guess, but it's just like sometimes you feel like, oh, I got this, like I gain energy for myself. Like, no, you need somebody in your
Need
world, in
people.
your circle, to talk to who is understanding of what you're doing, because they're on the same path as you, because it
Oh,
really
yeah.
changes your perspective and your mindset. And I'm ranting, I'm not going to do this.
That's okay. We have a question. I got you. Carol, we have a question from Carol Reddy. Carol is asking, will your next book follow the same theme? Will there be more
Yes,
from
so
the Goddess Twins?
what's next
Or
up?
what's
I
next for
love
you?
that. I love that. Thank you. I'm excited to hear how readers react to this book because it
Yeah.
is left open for a follow-up. And there is more that I would definitely love to do in this world. Not only just sequels, but even given the opportunity to do spin-offs, as I mentioned, of other characters, of the grand and her backstory, of the cousins doing like hot mess things. I just think that that would be interesting, and if people are feeling these characters, I would love to hear the reaction if they want more. So definitely there's an intent to do more writing into this world. I want to put the energy out there now that I would absolutely love to work on developing this into a film or a
Oh,
TV
yes.
Yeah.
project. Seeing the Goddess Twins on screen, I would be really excited about that because the way I write, again, it just like I just like will have scenes and then I'll write out the scene like
Yeah.
as I'm envisioning it in my imagination as the characters and their faces are reacting to different things. Like, and I've realized like the way I've written it, people have been taking in the book and they're like, I just saw a movie, like this needs to be a movie, like this is exciting. I was visually in that world, so it would be really exciting to not only be able to continue the world but to move it into different platforms to share this story. So
Fabulous.
yes.
It lends
Absolutely.
itself to it.
I hope
Definitely.
that comes to fruition. Like, let's
Yeah.
goodness, speaking goodness over your life, that this is going to come to be.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I've been putting energy out there. Oprah will be tweeting about this book.
Oh,
hey,
gosh. Yes.
you
I
know,
love how Oprah is like our pinnacle. Isn't that so funny? I love
right?
that it's like, but did Oprah tweet it? Like, she did? Okay.
It's
New
like
York
it's
Times,
legit
too.
now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely
Okay,
Mother God.
so we're coming up on an hour. So a couple more
Oh,
questions for you. One, can you tell us about your publishing journey? Because I know you're published through
yeah.
Spark Press, which is a hybrid publisher. So, I mean, I researched you, so I know a little bit. But for the people who didn't like Google search you, can you tell us
Yeah,
a little bit about that? And
of course.
also, like what made you decide to go with them versus the other routes? Only because, like, again, like I said, a lot of the people who watch our channel,
Yeah.
they're writers in and of themselves, and so they're trying to figure out, which way to go with this publishing thing.
Yes, yes. And I'm always grateful for the opportunity to share that there are multiple paths to publishing, and these days it is not just like a gatekeeping system that you have to get an agent and you have to be taken by one of these big five publishers in order for your book to ever show up anywhere. So that was part of my evolution as a writer, was figuring out the publishing side of it, because again, I entered this into this basically just with a dream, like I publish a book. And so I had to fill in all of the parts of how to make that dream a reality. And one big part of it was doing research of publishing and modern publishing and what they're looking for and how you get the deal to get your book out, and realizing that there are opportunities and ways that you can self-publish, but that also means you have more of the responsibility and challenge in the distribution and marketing of your book. And so I weighed for several months the pros and cons of self-publishing versus traditional publishing, and then I had kind of heard about this like middle, which was like hybrid publishing, which is like you're kind of more self-published, but they're not quite a traditional publisher, but they do get you in places of where some of the traditional publishing books are found. And so I kind of was in a place of like complete limbo around what was going to happen with my manuscript once I was getting complete with the writing of it. Like I was like, should I self-publish? Should I, try to get an agent? I don't know. Like I don't have, part of it was because I didn't have a lot of funding, and as a independent artist, I was not, able to just be like, yeah, I'm going to self-publish because I have money to put myself on a book tour. So there was a lot of things where I was like, I don't know if I can do this path, and I don't know if I can do that path. And I really had this drive, though, that my book needed to come out.
Yeah.
And part of one thing I remember going to a conference and them saying, like, like if you don't feel like your book is going to save the world, then you're just going to, get lost in writing a book and never publishing a book and never publishing a book. But the world needs writers who are publishing books that need to be published now. And there was something about like there was something about the way she was like giving the intention, like we need real books out there. And it kind of like stirred that in me. Like, I know my book is a real book. Like my book is written as a love song to my inner child who wanted to know that being Black and curious and creative was powerful. And so I really realized like I had kind of a deadline personally for getting my book out. And so I was just like, I'm just going to go after what makes sense to get my book out for me, which was traditional publishing, because I had other things on the list of dreams that I wanted for my book. Like I was like, I really would love for my book to be findable in a library. Like that was important for me because I was like, I grew up in libraries. I want to be able to have my book in a library system and be able to have my book somewhere that it can be bought by kids, So that was kind of a challenge to the self-publishing path because it's so much more difficult to get self-publishing books in like libraries or to be used by schools as like a school book. But I had a dream that my book might have that kind of use and that kind of stickability. Like I was like, I could see this being a reading book for a 6th grade class. Why can't I figure out the path that could make it go that way? So that's why I kept leaning towards, for me, traditional publishing and traditional publishing paths, because I had a dream of the work that I wanted the book to do, and not just to be published, but that I wanted it to be available in certain ways. So I knew traditional publishing was a path to get that kind of official stamp, so a book could be used in schools and that kind of stuff. So then taking that meant that I had to like bite into figuring out, how do you get a traditional like publishing deal? And there was like many ways along that, but I started with like creating a query, creating a list of agents and publishing houses, comparing books that were in the market now to which agent was the agent for that writer. And then I just started like querying all of those agents, and that took multiple months. But while I was doing that and feeling a little like concerned, like, I don't know, is this going to take me years? Someone had given me the tip at a conference that there are publishing deals through these hybrid publishers that will offer what traditional publishers do, but you as a writer are taking a little bit more risk in the stake. And so I started looking at these publishing deals, and I saw that She Writes Press was one that was offering one, and they were offering it exclusively for minority writers who were writing something in a cultural voice. And so I was like, definitely this book fits that. And so I had originally applied to this writing publishing contract scholarship because it was one of the many opportunities that I saw that could get my book out in the way that I wanted. And I was not only looking at this kind of publishing, like, because I was looking at like a lot of houses, I was looking at a lot of agents. Like I literally had a spreadsheet of like 50 different agents that like I was going after and like doing personalized emails to each one. Like, I saw you were on an interview with so-and-so, and you said you were looking for multicultural fantasy. Haha, sir. So I was very much in this kind of like publishing hunt, looking for an agent, applying to deals, applying to like publishing scholarships. And to be honest, I'm so grateful, and I was so surprised when things came back from She Writes Press that they were picking my manuscript for this deal, because I was starting to get kind of like wishy-washy feedback from traditional agents and the industry. And I was concerned that it was going to be this loop where I was applying to get an agent and trying to get an agent for years. And I was like, but I know my book needs to come out. My book really needs to come out. Like, I'm telling people about this book and they're like, I would read that book. Is it out? And I'm like, I'm trying to get a deal, I promise. So I was really grateful when things started moving with She Writes Press, and they told me I was in the top 5 of their selection for manuscripts. And then they sent me an email a couple months later, and they said, we want to let you know that we're announcing the winner for this year, and it's not you. And I was like, oh, okay. But we want you to know that we shared your manuscript with our young adult team, because it's actually more young adult, and we were looking for a women's adult book, and they have decided to select you as a winner. And I was like,
go ahead.
All right.
Like, oh, that I won, but I didn't win. Like, it was absolutely wild. Like, the universe just created an opportunity out of the one that I did not win for this book to be published. And that's why I feel so grateful. And I've just been continuously in this place of wonderment, because this was so much just like a fever dream that I had 6 years ago, that there would be a book that I could write that would feel powerful and wonderful and glowing and speak to the spirit of the Black femme woman, the Black femme energy. And so I'm so grateful for all of the twists and turns and surprises. But I've definitely been grateful for the Spark Press team. That's the young adult side of She Writes Press. So I'm officially published with Spark Press. So I do recommend them if you're a young writer who feels like you're looking for what avenues to get your book out. And if you feel like, you know, you are open to a publisher who is not the exact Big 5 publishing team, but is definitely, for me, has been a more intimate and caring experience. Like, they really pushed my novel in a way that I feel like possibly another agency or house would have just been like, yeah, get it out as it is. But like my editors and my publishing team, like, they were like, can we go back to the prologue and talk about it? Because I feel like there's some answers that could be there. Like, they were really caring about this novel. And I feel like that's one of the advantages of being with a smaller publishing house, because like, I genuinely had a team. Like, I still, even to this day, have my marketing team that's helping me, you know, get everything out and getting me the opportunity to have this book out even during a pandemic. So for me, going with a team was the way I wanted to go with. And I'm so grateful that this publishing scholarship was the way, because I felt like this book needed to come out with urgency, and I was ready to be a debut author. And so I'm so grateful that I was with a publishing house that had a time frame and a short time frame, because I've also heard that horror story that authors, you know, have found an agent, and then that agent gets fired, and then they're pushed to another agent, and then that agent puts them on the back burner, and then they're just like in limbo for 5 years trying to publish a book. So knowing when I went with She Writes Press, they were like, we have you as an author in 2020 spring, summer. Like, that's the date. We're working towards that. Like, I was like, yes. I was really like,
I like that.
Again, as a type A person, I was like, yeah. So for me, this was definitely the right path to go with a team and not to do it self-published. I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to, again, do the energy that I can on my own, like to be able to be on the show with you guys, to share it with my, you know, share it with my crew and everything that's happening in my world, but to also have a team that is looking on it on the bigger end. Because again, I didn't know anything about the publishing industry. So they were like, this is how we're going to get your book into, you know, like Entertainment Magazine, and we have this, and we're going to get you on NetGalley, and like, and all these things. And I was like, oh, great, good. And also quality, because I was doing this on my own.
It's a different beast.
Different beast. It would have taken me a lot more time and energy to get to half of what is happening right now with this launch. So I'm very grateful.
It's so great to hear that. Thank you for sharing. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. So we have to wrap this up, otherwise we're gonna be here all day. So
It's been so juicy and good. Thank you.
Final
Yes,
question,
thank you.
and then we are going to depart from the masses. Last one, and we ask this to everyone. If you could go back and give yourself, your younger self, any writing advice, what would it be, and what age would you go back to give it to yourself?
Yeah, I would say be more confident with getting my writing out, because it really wasn't until I was in college, and I went to college for fashion, that I started doing writing for like publications. And being a fashion blogger at that time was like my first experience of like putting my writing out there.
Okay.
So I'm really grateful for that, and realizing like being able to pull that band-aid off and being like, oh, it's scary to have my name on a byline on a website. Like, oh, people are really nice in comments. Like, oh,
Yeah.
writing, I can share it. That was huge for me, because I grew up as a child keeping my writing so private and so secret, and no one could read it, and locks on my diaries and secret compartments and like
everything.
Yes.
I feel like no one should read my writing. And I don't know if it was partially because of the tone of absolute vulnerability that I take when there's a page. Like, I'm just like, boom. And sometimes it would just be like, oh, no one should read that. But also like feeling like no one would care or want to be interested in my voice was also part of my insecurity as a writer. So if I could tell myself as a child something, it would be like, you're writing, like it's wonderful, share it with people. Like, don't be afraid to share your voice and to share this creativity that you have. So I'm glad that this book is a part of kind of encouraging people of color, encouraging new voices to share. Because again, I did not see like Black people in fantasy, Black people in sci-fi the way that I wanted. And I'm so grateful to have this book out now, but it could have come out maybe a decade ago, because I still had this idea then. So yeah, getting the writing out as soon as you realize the writing's there.
There we go. That's it.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you, everybody in the chat. The chat was popping. I don't know if you guys saw me. I was just like, my eyes were on it the whole time. You had a lot of support. So thank you all in the chat.
Let me know, the Goddess Twins on Kindle is on sale for 99 cents for like a couple more days to celebrate the launch. Thank you so much, everyone who has ordered it. The cover is so gorgeous. I'm so excited for people to have it. Thank you, guys. This was wonderful.
Yes.
All right, you guys, that is it for this author interview. Again, we were here with Yodassa Williams. Yoda. We was here with Yoda. And if you enjoyed this video, guys, please show some love. Tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, head over to Acasa's channel and do the same for her, because she's amazing and we love her. And yeah, feel free to talk to us in the comments if you're watching this in the future. One of us will get back to you, because that's just who we are. We love comments. If you don't know what to say, just drop a heart and we'll heart it back. And that's it. That's the whole spiel. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Yes. I just left the link to my Patreon in the comments. If you are interested and available, I would definitely appreciate your support. I'm definitely growing in my path as being a writer, and I would love to share this journey with all of you. So thank you.
Yes, and also in that same stream of thought, Written in Melanin has a Patreon as well, because we are Black writers who love to support Black writers, and we want to be able to do that for all the Black writers, like all of them. So if you guys would like, please support us, support Yodassa, support everyone. Love. Okay, we really have to go. So
thank you. This was wonderful. Yes. Thank you to everyone who joined the chat. My mom, Drew, Shaneri. I see some names I definitely recognize. I love you all. Claudette, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. And until next time, you guys.
Bye.
May your days be lovely and